As a certified somatic practitioner and yoga teacher with a specialization in somatic yoga, I spent over 2 years in deep research and personal experimentation, trying to figure out why I felt so off. I was tired all the time, my anxiety was through the roof, and there were days where I could barely feel anything at all. There were days where I just didn't feel in my life, felt like an observer in my life, just feeling really flat and numb. I didn't have a diagnosis, and on paper I was fine, but my body was telling me a different story. What I eventually discovered through my own experience with somatic work, through studying neuroscience and my own healing, is that I was in full nervous system overload. And you know what? Most of the women I know work with have no idea that it's also what's happening to them. So in this video, I'm walking you through the 3 most common symptoms of an overloaded nervous system. Why they happen, what your body is actually trying to tell you, and what you can start doing about it today. The first one is chronic fatigue that sleep doesn't fix. Because when your body is stuck in survival mode for a long time and repetitively during the day without the tools to come back to a parasympathetic or ventral vagal state, it takes up a lot of energy. I already talked in other videos about the allostatic load and what it does to our body. And I like comparing it to a backpack that you're just filling with stones as you go through your day. And so if along your day you're just filling your backpack with stones until it gets absolutely full and then go to sleep and barely got your 8 hours sleep, it's not enough to empty that backpack, right? The more you're stressing your body, the more it is stressed. And the harder it is for the body to come back to a baseline, which makes sense, right? The more you're going to stress it during the day, the more you're going to need purposeful rest, the more you're going to need good rest. Good activities actually allow it to rest because sleep can't restore what chronic stress keeps depleting. And many women are told that they need to do more self-care. But what is actually self-care? Self-care is activities that are going to regulate your nervous system. And lying in bed, watching TV when you are in a survival state is just not enough. And what happens a lot with like the hustle culture we live in is that we actually, in order to be able to enjoy a restful activity, we need to actually prepare the body to be able to rest. We can't just like be in a sympathetic stress, be like all anxious, and then turn a switch and be like, okay, no, I'm going to rest. We need to kind of prepare the body, let the body know that the stress is over. And then now we can come back to a parasympathetic or ventral vagal state and start to rest, to recover from that period of stress that we just went through. I remember when I was younger, when I was about 19, I used to do waitressing in events like weddings. Loved it. It was a lot of fun actually. And I remember it was quite intense on the body. It was days of physically walking for like 8, 10, 12 hours without pausing. And when I would finish my day, I would go home, have a shower, get to bed, and sleep for like 8 hours. And I remember that feeling of waking up, feeling so rested, feeling so good, feeling that even though I went to bed, all my muscles were sore, I was deeply, deeply tired. Sleeping could resolve all of that for me, and I could just wake up and feel so fresh. But I can't do that anymore. I've never been able to access that feeling again. Why is this? Because, first of all, at that time, we didn't have smartphones, which makes me feel really old right now. So I wouldn't go lie in bed and start scrolling on my phone or turn on the TV. It was simple. It was, my body is tired, let's just go to sleep. Now, even as a somatic practitioner, and even as someone that deeply, deeply understands my need or the need for my body to rest when it's tired, I still struggle a little bit with it sometimes because of my habits, right? Because of past habits. So even if I'm really tired, sometimes I still go to bed, start doing something else on my phone, or don't necessarily do any wind down activities, even though I know that they are really, really needed for me. I need to stretch, I need to clear my head before I go to bed. And I know that if I don't do that, I'm gonna lose basically 2 hours of sleep, because it's going to be 2 hours where my body is still trying to wind down on its own and my thoughts are still like everywhere, and I'm sleeping, but I'm actually dreaming a lot about what happened during the day in a way that is overwhelming and that doesn't really let me sleep correctly. And I'm fully aware of that. Every time it happens, I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't wind down before going to sleep. So sleep hygiene is not a somatic practice in itself, and it's not a nervous system practice, it's a nervous system habit. If we want to have a restful sleep and we had a stressful day, then we need to prepare the body to rest. So if you notice that you wake up tired even so you've slept a good 7-8 hours, you might want to integrate an evening or wind down routine before you go to sleep, before you go to bed. So this can look like doing a few stretching before bed, and it doesn't have to be like a 20-minute yoga routine. It can be only 5 minutes, but you want to look for a sign that your body is regulating slowly on itself. So there are different signs that your nervous system is starting to regulate and let go of everything it's been holding during the day. For me, a big sign is when I start yawning. I know that when I'm doing those practices, this bedtime routine, I'm actively looking for yawns. And it can be a lot of them. It can be 10, 20, 30 of them. It's really good and it feels really good. It's almost like you feel the stress like leaving your body with every yawn and every deeper exhale. Another thing that you can do is also do a bit of breathing exercises, so exhaling for longer before you go to sleep. And another one, and I know you're not going to like it, but it's staying away from any screens. So, for example, if you enjoy watching TV or watching something on your phone before going to bed, is there a way that you can turn it off and then pick up a book and start reading to kind of like calm down your mind, because it's not so stimulated as it is with a TV or with a screen. It's much calmer to just be reading a book because you're just focusing on a page and a few words written on it. Or maybe you can just like put a meditation on or put a breathing exercise. Any of those practices are really good to activate the parasympathetic, and if you do those practices regularly, they are going to become signals telling your body that you're preparing for bed. The second point is hypervigilance, which is feeling alert even when nothing is wrong. Hypervigilance is the nervous system's alarm system kind of stuck in the on position. So it keeps scanning for threats even in environments that are safe. So that's when you feel tense in rooms that are quiet and where you're not in any danger. It's when you're feeling anxious while you are at the grocery store for no apparent reasons. It's when you're constantly waiting for something bad to happen, even when you're having a good day. First of all, I want to say it's a physiological response, so it's not that you're making it up. This hypervigilance rewires the brain to perceive more and more situations as threatening. So it's basically a loop that is never ending. It usually comes from either traumas or a chronic stress. And it's really exhausting for the body because it never feels safe. It's always on alert. And signs that you're in hypervigilance might be that you're bracing for impact, your shoulders are up your ears, your jaw is clenched, maybe your fists are clenched. Clenching your fist. Did you say clenching your fist? You're clenching your fists, or you startled easily. All of these are a sign that your body is, and your nervous system is on alert in case something were to happen. So that means it's not really feeling safe and secure in the space that you're in. And sometimes there are no reasons for that. There are no obvious reasons for that. Even when you are in an environment and with people that you consciously feel safe about and with. An example for me was trying to go to sleep and not understanding why I wasn't able to relax. get to a stage where my body was relaxed enough to fall asleep. A lot of the time, without really noticing it, without realizing it, I will notice that I had been clenching my fist, clenching my jaw, and kind of bracing for something to happen here in my bed. And that's why I couldn't fall asleep, because I was so tensed, I was so on alert, that my body couldn't fall asleep until it was totally exhausted and couldn't sustain it anymore. And there was no reasons for that. And I remember thinking, why am I so stressed? Why am I so tense? I have all the conditions to have a good night's sleep. I'm in a safe place with safe people next to my husband. I feel safe next to him. And yet, my body didn't feel safe. If you ever notice yourself in hypervigilance, one practice that you can try is orienting. And orienting means slowly looking around you in the room you're in. Easier to do if you have the lights on. So gently like turning your head and just looking around, and maybe naming two things that you can see, and maybe finding one thing that has a particular color. Let's say let's find something that is green, and maybe finding something that could be hot if you were to touch it, things like that. So when you're doing this, you're telling your nervous system that you're actually safe, because if you were really in a danger, you wouldn't have time to do that. When your nervous system is in a survival state, it's focusing on what's directly in front of you, and therefore your eyes aren't moving that much. So when you start looking around and start being curious and kind of playful with what's around you and what's in your environment, then you're signaling to your nervous system that you are in a safe space. Because otherwise, you wouldn't have time and you wouldn't be like looking for, oh, let's look for something that is green around me. You wouldn't be doing that. So it's sending messages down your body that you're actually safe. And hypervigilance that's how your body learns to keep you safe. But what it's important to know is that you can gently teach it something new. You can gently show it that you're safe, that you're feeling safe in the environment you're in. And the third point is sensory fragility. So it's feeling overwhelmed by your senses, so by noise, light, or stimulation around you. Because when the nervous system is overloaded, your sensory thresholds drops dramatically. So for example, things that don't used to bother you might all of a sudden be really, really annoying, and might be all you can focus on. For example, a loud TV, bright lights, a crowded room, multiple conversations all at once. All of this might start to feel genuinely overwhelming. And it's not that you're too sensitive, it's just that your nervous system is running out of capacity to process all these triggers and all these stimulations around you. A regulated nervous system has a wider window of tolerance. Window of tolerance is something that I've talked about before in other videos as well, so I can put a link somewhere here if you want to know more about that concept. A nervous system that is regulated has a wider window of tolerance, so it can handle more before getting overwhelmed. But chronic stress narrows that window. So that's why when we are walking towards regulating a nervous system, what we are doing is walking and widening that window. So sensory fragility is one of the clearest, I will say, sign that your system is near its limit, because it's easy to point out, right? It's easy to say, oh, that noise is annoying me, or that person is annoying me, or the flickering light is annoying me, right? And I find that it's usually one of the senses that gets overwhelming, in particular when we are dysregulated. So for me, for example, it's noise, and I've talked about that in a post that I've wrote in Substack recently about how traveling to the center of London every day when I was living in a chronic stress and chronic dysregulation was really overwhelming. And the number one thing that I could perceive as triggering for me was the noise. All the noises that I could hear around. It was just too much for my system. And my best friend was actually noise cancelling headphones. And when I was in this situation, all I could think about was going back home to cut out all the noise. I could feel that I was overstimulated, and it was out of my hand to stop it. Well, that's what I felt anyway. So I was I could feel that my body was in a high survival state where all I was thinking about is running outside that environment, getting home, getting to my safe place where I could just like cut out the noise and not be that stimulated anymore and be relieved from that overwhelming situation. So if you've noticed that certain sounds, certain lights, certain busy environments leave you feeling drained or irritable, or maybe like me, you just feel like you want to escape, try a sensory reset. So that could be finding a quiet space, dim the light, and maybe cover your eyes if that helps, and spend 5 minutes in stillness with slow, deep breathing. This could be a good practice to refill your capacity before re-entering the world. Sensory fragility is like your body giving you data on how much it's carrying. And when you're able to honor it instead of pushing through it, this in itself is an act of regulation. So chronic fatigue, hypervigilance, and sensory fragility are all signs of a nervous system that is overloaded. And it's not something that is permanent. They are physiological responses. It's not something you have to live with forever. It's not because you're too sensitive. It's not a weakness or whatever. It can change. When you understand what your body is doing and why, you can stop fighting yourself and start working with yourself. Let me know which of these 3 symptoms resonated most with you. Is it the exhaustion, the constant on feeling? Is it the sensory overwhelm? Tell me in the comments. And if this video helps you understand your body a little bit more today, please subscribe. I put out new videos every week all about healing your nervous system with somatic practices and science-backed tools. You deserve to feel safe in your body.